fun. G'day. I'm sorry, I had to. You can only see maybe the corner of it. But today, for $1,000, I don't know how, like, chanced it on Marketplace. Can I do this? I picked up this bad boy. Bro. A Fryette Deliverance Mark II, 120 plus. Guitar players have no luck like a scorned ex. This guitar amp actually belonged to a good friend of mine, and he broke up with his ex. She said, I want it back. And he said, oh, okay. She had bought it for him. And then I messaged him, was like, I'm lowballing it. If I get it, you can have it. I'll do this as a friend. He said, no, it's fine. And then she said, yeah. It's like, dude, I bought this amp, and it's yours. It's not spiritually mine. He said, it's fine, keep it. It's your high gain amp. I don't want the memories attached to it. But we have a rule, if he ever wants to borrow it, sessions, touring, whatever, it's his. So thank you, mate. I've always wanted one of these. David Torn used one of these. One of my favorite amps ever. So I don't know. I'm hoping some really cool karmic justice comes his way. Sorry, not justice. Karmic luck. Gosh, no, that boy deserves nothing but the best. He found him a good woman. And that he's very happy about that. Look, I want to talk to you about something today in light of things that I've always been really passionate about, and I've learned a lot of my friends aren't as passionate about, or perhaps just don't know as much about, right? Well, that's, what is an instrument? Well, you know, there's definitions and there's words. And then there's the intangible feeling, right? We hear about these heralded instruments, right? I never hear someone say like it's a guitar and just talk about it like it's a guitar. Like maybe like a tool we have, like this Strat here I made, or it's not technically a Strat, but you know what I mean? 24 and 3/4 scale. It was a tool to serve a purpose at the time and to experiment. But then I hold something like this, a Frank Brothers. And this is an instrument. This was made from love and care and craft and dedication and a commitment to providing the best quality thing. You know, I do Rue guitars, and I have my own shape coming, and I've worked really hard, and I'm working with a really great couple of people who are able to help me learn the ropes and get better as I foray into doing my own design. And that's really exciting and fantastic, but you know, it's interesting because we hold these guitars made by boutique builders, the older guitars, in such a reverence. And I often wondered why. Was it just age? Because surely not. There are guitars from the 30s and 40s, 50s and 60s, 70s that people wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. Perhaps like the Sears catalog guitars, Teiscos, Guillotones, things like that. Or perhaps even lower by standards. There are some guitars out there made of plywood. Now, some people revere them and hold them dear. I personally love my K Vanguard. But others would laugh in the face of these guitars and say, well, that's not a 52 Telly. But sometimes I wonder, a lot of people pay because they're old and they're worth money and they've wanted it their whole life. But a lot of my friends play one instrument. And they've spent $30,000 to $40,000 on that instrument. But it's imbued with the body of them by the time they've got to know it. There is a valuable lesson in spending time with one instrument. And I keep saying the word instrument, and I need to discuss that. To me, a guitar, a violin, a fiddle, a piano, when you bear it down to the rhetorical nub of its name, is a tool. You use a guitar to play music or to create sound. You use a piano to do the same. You would use an Allen wrench as a tool. But when I look at a Steinway or perhaps a D'Acquisto archtop or a D'Angelico, I don't think of them as a piano and a guitar. I think of them as instruments. Now, what do I mean by this? Personally, an instrument is something that is alive. Because wood is very much a living thing. Even chopped, it grows, right? And these guitars change over time. And a lot of people argue that, but I've spent time with this instrument and others haven't. But other people I know who played it when I first got it versus now have said, wow, that's a different thing. Now this is made of old growth Carino, same ledger as the original Gibson Flying V's. It has two pickups, handmade by my good friend Peter at Groon's Guitars. And then it's got a Mikasa fingerboard. This thing was, you know, I was uncertain about Frank Brothers. I remember 3 a.m. in my bed in Boston, middle of COVID, going, wow, that's the ugliest guitar ever. And I kept coming back. At the time, I had a guitar I sold, and I invested in this, and I waited 6 months until I got it. I'd never done that before. I remember picking it up, and I remember it felt like I was playing my first notes on a Steinway. I said, this thing is incredible, and I'll have this thing for the rest of my life. And I will. I've never played a Les Paul or something of that, an SG or whatever, that's matched it. This thing has become a part of my identity as a musician. And in that way, I feel like it's an instrument. An instrument is something that imbues the personality of its user until the next, is something that shows the scars and the battle wear, is something that grows with you, and you know every inch of it. I know the faults of this guitar, but I also know the strengths of this guitar. Perhaps that's why up top I felt so confident to just one take play some stuff between two chords. Either way, the pedal you're hearing is the Chase Bliss Lost and Found. I'll unplug it. It's a so you can see it. It's a very confusing and stressful pedal sometimes, but it's a really beautiful pedal. And it was made by Joel Corti at, and sorry Joel if I'm pronouncing your last name wrong, at Chase Bliss. And it's kind of an instrument within itself, right? They really do put effort into these things. But onto my topic. A lot of people just use guitars as tools, and I respect that. I have, you know, I remember I got to sit next to Brent Mason in a session. I was like, oh, you know, I'm sheepishly, can I please check out your guitars? Yeah, man, sure, cool. Wow, 60 Strat. Whoa, like a late 70s SG. Oh, what about this, your Les Paul? Oh, it's an Epiphone / Les Paul. And I went, oh, okay. And I kind of didn't pick it up. He said, you should play it. I said, sure, okay. So I did. And I played a couple of chords. I said, well, that feels good. He goes, yeah, that's my Les Paul. And I thought, Brent Mason, arguably the most influential guitarist of the last 30 years. I saw a comment saying Kurt Rosenwinkel. Kurt, I love you, but Brent's done a lot for the pop music world and country music, and but it's difficult because they're totally different guitarists. Like, there's no comparing them. I mean, listen to Kurt Rosenwinkel play. The dude's a genius. His reductive 251s, Chivago, that melody haunts me sometimes. But to Brent, it's just a tool, right? It's just something he can use to achieve a certain demographic or sound or get through a certain passage that he needs. And I thought that was very interesting. Whereas his grey telly is definitely something he loves. He buys a seat for it, or it's the one that always goes back to the house with him. I don't necessarily know if an instrument has to be created, but it has to be made by someone, in the fact that you could get a random store-bought guitar, but over the next 50 years, that becomes an instrument because it breathes and grows and becomes a part of you. It becomes a part of the identity of people, almost recognize you for having it. I think that definitely quantifies an instrument. I have a good friend, Dylan Sulphur. I've only seen him play 2 guitars. It's a Blackguard Telly and a 56 Les Paul Custom with the Black Beauty with the staple pickup. I think it's a 56. Dylan, correct me if I'm wrong. And when I see him play either of those things, it feels less like he's using a tool to achieve a job and more like an extension of himself. I know I'm speaking philosophically, but I think this is important. An instrument imbues the spirit and the idea that, perhaps although a cut piece of wood organized into a certain format, glued and dried, painted, alongside different kinds of metals that are shaped, formed, and put together, wire around magnets. There is something to be said about learning a guitar, truly learning it and spending time with it, it becoming a part of you and using it. Something magical about that over time grows to the point where you just recognize that that thing is a part of who you are. It's like Stevie's Number One or Roy Buchanan's Nancy, I've seen clips of them playing other guitars, but it's not the same. And when they play that, it's an instrument. It's part of who they are and what they do. So look, it's some thoughts to leave you with, but it's an interesting discussion. What is a guitar, but what is an instrument? To me, an instrument can be quantified as something that when a specific person or any person picks it up, recognizes the quality, the inherent ability for this thing to have a voice, and the inherent ability for someone to be able to play it in a certain way that makes it easier for them. It's kind of like when you notice someone playing one guitar all the time and they play another, and it might sound great on the other guitar, but on this guitar, they come to life, and it's just them. It's like perhaps me with this, or perhaps me with my working man's guitar. And I just thought this was a really interesting topic. I've been talking about this with people for a few days, and some people have disagreed, and some people have agreed, and some people have thought, wow, you should talk about this more. And I thought, well, why would you want to listen to me more? But regardless, I'm going to play you out. But it's some stuff to think about. Do you have an instrument, or do you just view things as guitars? Are they collector's commodities, or do you enjoy having a lot of them? Over time, my collection has thinned, but I'm happy with the collection it has become. And there's nothing in here that I wouldn't use or don't use at certain times. So, this thing can handle delay well. But then, of course, also the coolest piece of gear maybe ever has come up for sale. Electric Wizard's Sound City cab is for sale from the Music Locker. I don't know the dude, but that's unbelievably sick. Anyway, there's my Fry It Deliverance review and discussion on instruments. I'm using a lapel mic too. One of my closest and dearest friends, Chris Benson, and I, who we talk all the time, he was like, dude, fix the mic situation. So this video is an ode to you, Mr. Benson. I love you, and I'll call you in a little bit. Cheers.